there, this is Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of Seconds Out Flexpectations. Here every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. to look ahead to the boxing action over the weekend. And this week it's the second week of Fight Camp 2021. And it's the best fight, in my view, on paper of the entire three-show Fight Camp series. Jazza Dickens rematch with Kid Galahad for the vacant IBF Featherweight Championship of the World. But while that is a step up, or at least a small step up from last week's main event, which saw Lee Wood upset the odds to win the WBA regular belt against Zhu Can, the overall show pales in comparison, I have to say. You've got to remember that last week, not only did we get Lee Wood Zhu Can, we also got a great British, European and Commonwealth cruiserweight title fight between Chris Billam-Smith and Tommy McCarthy. And an intriguing on paper and one that delivered in the ring between Jack Cullen and Avni Yildirim, amongst other enjoyable elements to the show. And that's with Conor Benn having to pull out of his main event fight against Adrian Granados on fight week after being diagnosed with COVID-19. And also Shannon Courtney's world title fight falling through well in advance of Fight Camp, not on fight week like Conor Benn. But again, the show got better, arguably, after the pullouts. But yeah, just a really good show last week. Really good way to kick off Fight Camp. This week, aside from the top fight, it's not great, it has to be said. Nick Webb against Fabio Wardley for the English heavyweight title is a good fight and an intriguing fight. But if you compare levels, obviously, I don't know if that's the chief support or not, but it's certainly the second best fight on the card. If you compare that to Billam-Smith and McCarthy, there is no comparison. I mean, it's not anywhere near that level. This is more of a test for Wardley to see if he can go beyond the domestic level. Nick Webb coming off a really good win out in Gibraltar on that Dillian Whyte show against Eric Pfeiffer, previously unbeaten German, former amateur standout as well. So that was destroyed him in the second round. Really good win that for Nick Webb. But we kind of know what we're getting with him. Big, strong, powerful guy, does the basics well, but can be hit and can be hurt. His only two defeats have been via stoppage. It's hard to forget that Dave Allen, a huge overhand right, following on from a sneaky left hook to the body that destroyed, hammered poor Nick Webb to the canvas, unfortunately for him. But yeah, so we know what his frailties are. Wardley, less so. I mean, he's kind of developed from not really a traditional boxing background. He's done white collar in the past, but he's kind of developed under scrutiny. He's been on a lot of big shows due to his association with Dillian Whyte. He's never been afraid to take on challenges. Last time out in March, he beat Eric Moliner, kind of former world title challenger. Not seen better days and probably never that good to begin with. And got hit a bit more than people were anticipating, but got the job done in impressive fashion, certainly in the finish in the fifth round. But yeah, we're still, even though we've seen a lot of Wardley, we're still not sure what his ceiling is because he's improving with each fight and he's learning with each fight. And he's getting a lot of practice, not just sparring Dillian Whyte, but sparring some of the better heavyweights around the world today in between contests as well. I'm not going to do predictions on this vlog because we are filming a predictions video, which you may have already seen by the time you watch this. But suffice to say, I think that is the second best fight on the show. And then there's a big drop-off. Bet Connolly, who we saw losing to a debuting Ellie Scotney not too long ago, hasn't been brought in to upset the Ebony Bridges apple cart. She is, what is it, the modern day Muhammad Ali or whatever it was. Gareth A. Davies said in one of his stranger, maybe we'll call it a senior moment, but that might be an insult to most OAPs out there. But whatever you think of Ebony Bridges, she should get past Bet Connolly, no disrespect to her. And a lot of the other people on the show, you would expect the house fighters to come through. Aqib Fiaz, Johnny Fisher, and even Alan Babich, although he's fighting a 7-1 opponent in Mark Bennett, who's a lot bigger than him, a lot heavier. Babich has been on a bit of a tear. He's probably fought the better opposition. Bennett's only defeat was in the Boxer tournament that Nick Webb actually won in 2019. He lost to Webb in the final of that, so he got two good wins on the way. And dropped Josh Sandland, who's a decent fighter, a couple of times in their fight, but not noted Bennett as a huge puncher. Only one stoppage, I think, from his 7 victories. He's lost rounds against kind of journeyman opposition in the past as well. That single stoppage he got was against Dorian Darch, who's a lovely guy, but probably a bit shop-worn by the time he faced Bennett. It's hard to see anything. I'm not, I'm not doing a spoiler here for the prediction show, but it's hard to see anything other than Babic tearing through the unfortunate Mark Bennett. And I'm happy to have egg on my face if I'm wrong, but it does seem like a lot of, journeyman / underdog versus prospect contests on that undercard. There's nothing like Cullen Yildirim, that's for sure. Or even, Anthony Fowler against Rico Mueller, although Fowler was a big favourite, and rightly so. Mueller had a very good record. He'd mixed in top class, and he came to win. And I'm not sure if we can tick all those boxes for some of the away fighters coming into fight camp this weekend. So, yeah, it's not as good as the first week's show. It's probably not as good as next week's either, to be quite honest. So it's kind of the weak link in between. But it does have the best main event of the 3, and also the best fight for me, as I say, on paper of fight camp overall. Jazza Dickens, MTK Golden Contract winner, and didn't, get an easy route to that title. He beat Ryan Walsh, of course, in the final, the former undefeated British champion. Really talented fighter in his own right. And beat Lee Wood in the semi-final. Very close fight, but Jazza just started off incredibly sharply, and Wood was never quite able to peg him back. And that victory for Jazza looks even better in light of Wood's victory over Can last week. So coming into this in great form, it was 8 months ago, but compared to Kid Galahad, Jazza's been much more active. Galahad hasn't fought for 18 months by the time they get in the ring on Saturday night. But he is incredibly talented. Switch hitter. Jazza, of course, is a southpaw, although he's a very unique southpaw, Jazza, I should say. He's very compact, aggressive, rough at times, southpaw. He can be slick, don't get me wrong. He's very, very skillful as well. But he's not the typical kind of southpaw pecker and poker, always on his toes. He can be quite a handful, it's fair to say. And improved massively since their first fight, as has Galahad. He obviously won that one via late stoppage. Bit of needle between the two in the build-up to that. But they've since sparred a number of times, and while Jazza rejects any assertion that they are now friends, they're certainly on better terms than they were in the lead-up to that first fight. But so much has changed since then. Galahad's obviously had his own world title opportunity. A lot of people felt he was unlucky against Josh Warrington in a fight that I've still never watched because I missed it on the night and then heard it was just the most boring fight ever, which is probably an exaggeration, but I've never wanted to test to see if it's true. But yeah, a lot of people felt he'd done enough. Either way, he pushed Warrington, a peak Warrington, close. And has won 2 world title eliminators, Claudio Marrero, for this title opportunity. And previously, to seal the shot at Warrington, he beat Toka Khan Clary, who's a good fighter out in the US. So probably mixed in, or at least beaten the better opposition. Jazza's fallen short against some of the better fighters he's faced. Guillermo Rigondo, obviously living legend of the sport, beat him early after breaking Jazza's jaw. So that was a disappointing one for him. Lost to Galahad, of course, initially as well. And to Tommy Wald as well. Had a bad cut in that fight, but lost his British title to him. So it's been up and down, but this is probably the best Jazza's ever looked as a pro, former ABA champion. And coming into this on the back of the best run of form of his career, just went through that golden contract tournament. His self-belief was something else, just really felt from the start that he'd have too much for anyone that he faced in that tournament, regardless of the draw. And was proved right, came through. Galahad could be a bit rusty, hasn't fought for a long time, but he's a gym rat. He's always in the gym. Anyone who trains with him at the Winkerbank, Dominic Ingle, will tell you. He's incredibly dedicated, so he'll have got plenty of sparring and training in the bank regardless. But you can't really replicate competitive activity. So he may struggle early on, maybe a bit rusty. Jazza likes to start fast and sharp. so could go out to an early lead, and then Galahad will look to use, his underrated physical strength as well as his skills, his accuracy, and his timing to reel him back in. And again, I'm not going to do predictions because we've got a predictions video out there, but one thing I will say is I see it going the distance, and I do see it being a much, much closer affair than their first fight, which was really good to watch, by the way. So hopefully we'll get another entertaining spectacle on Saturday night. So that's what I think of Fight Camp Part 2. Best main event of the whole series. Probably the weakest undercard of the series. Let me know what you think. Am I missing anything? Is there a potential undercard upset that I'm not highlighting? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will respond to some of them. I'll be back on Monday for reflections, looking back at the show, 4:30 p.m. And then next Thursday for the next Flexpectations at 4:30 p.m. as well. Really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.